Good day, everyone. This is week 4, and this week we're going to be talking on virtual machines and compute services. So remember, in week 1 when we talked about different aspects of cloud, compute was one of them, and virtual machines are an aspect of compute services. So in today's class, we're going to be talking on virtual machines for the most part as a compute service. So at the end of the class, we're going to be understanding what a virtual machine is. I think we talked about this for a bit in week 2, I think, but then we're going to be understanding it in depth in this class. Then we're going to be learning about cloud compute services. We already had examples like AWS EC2. We also had examples like Google Compute Engine in our previous class, but our focus for this class would be Azure Virtual Machines. Would be learning how to launch and manage a VM in the cloud, like a virtual machine in Azure Cloud, and also yeah, so managing it would that include, going into the platform and doing some stuff on it, right? So where you would now develop practical skills on how to create a virtual machine, as well as RDP into that virtual machine. So these are concepts that we're going to be learning in today's class. All right, so let's dive right into it. What is a virtual machine? I wish this was like a physical class or a one-on-one class. So we would have gotten your thoughts before, diving right in. But at this point, I want you to pause the video, and think about it. What is a virtual machine? We've talked about it in our previous class. So just pause the video at this point, then think about it. What do you think the definition and key concepts of a virtual machine is? All right. So yes, now that you've thought about it, a virtual machine is a software-based emulation of a physical computer. So you do have a physical computer. I remember when we talked about this, I think in week 3 or week 2, I can't remember right now. When we talked about this, you have a physical computer and then you have a virtual computer. So the computer is not really hosted on your computer. You can just remote access that computer, and you need an hypervisor to be able to run that computer, right? So like it says, it's an emulation or a simulation of an actual computer. So it runs an operating system and applications like a physical machine. So you have that machine and you need to run an operating system on it, right? Maybe a Windows operating system, a Linux operating system, or a Unix operating system. And you can also run like applications, physical applications on that machine. So like your Microsoft Word, your Microsoft PowerPoint, your Chrome browser, you can run all of this on the virtual machine. Now, another concept that you want to think about is that multiple virtual machines can run on a single physical machine using an hypervisor. We already talked about this in our previous class. Your physical machine has an hypervisor layer that can help run virtual machines. And because of that, you can now run multiple virtual machines on that physical computer. So I could, on this my machine, run a Windows virtual machine or run a Linux virtual machine or a Unix virtual machine, as far as I do have my hypervisor available on my physical computer. Now, we also talked about examples of hypervisor out there, like VMware. That's one. You could Google on it, go to their website to read up on it. Then we also have Hyper-V and then KVM. Then we also have one from Oracle. I've forgotten the name. We talked about that as well in our week 2 class. What's then are the benefits of virtual machines? What then are the benefits of virtual machines? You could also at this point pause the video to think through what you think the benefits of virtual machines are, right? So pause the video at this point, think through it. Okay, so benefits of virtual machines, I would just, itemize them into 4 points: isolation, portability, scalability, and cost efficiency. So when we talk about isolation, you can isolate one virtual machine from another virtual machine, more or less the same way my personal computer is isolated from yours as you're watching the video at this point, right? So you can have virtual machines on your personal computer, but then they are in isolation. They do not know what's happening in another virtual machine. So even if I have 1 or 2 virtual machines running on my computer, they are isolated from one another, and that's one benefit of a virtual machine. The another one is portability. It can be moved between physical hosts, right? So when I create a virtual machine, which we'll be doing during this call, when I create a virtual machine, I can give you remote access to that virtual machine such that I can log into that virtual machine, leave it on, and also give you access to be able to log into the virtual machine. So at that point, it's portable, easily movable. So someone in Nigeria can log into the virtual machine, and then someone in the United States can also log into that virtual machine, which cannot be done with a physical computer, right? It's take a lot to be able to have access to my computer from the United States, right? So that's another benefit of a virtual machine, portability. Then when you talk about scalability, you're talking about how easy it is to increase and decrease resources, right? So in my physical computer, I probably have, I do have a terabyte of hard disk space, and then about 32 gig or 16 gigabytes of RAM, right? If I want to increase the amount of RAM on my PC, I have to go to the market, go to the store, get another RAM to add to my PC, or get another drive to add to my drive. That would take quite a while to achieve, right? But then if I do have a virtual machine in the cloud and I want to increase the amount of RAM, remember, it's on demand. All I need to go is go to the platform and request for more RAM or request for more storage. And then it's able to scale, makes our virtual machine run faster and more efficiently. So that is another benefit of a virtual machine. Then finally, I talked about cost efficiency. So reduces hardware costs by sharing resources, right? So if I want to get a machine, a physical machine, I have to go to the store. I have to get a physical laptop, right? That means, what's it called? That means I need to get upfront amounts ready, go to the store, get that physical machine, right? But then if I want to get a virtual machine, because I am sharing resources with other persons who wants to get virtual machines from cloud providers like Azure and AWS, it's going to be much more cheaper to get one. So that's where cost efficiency comes in. So these are like the benefits of virtual machines that I want us to remember. Remember them: isolation, portability, scalability, and cost efficiency. Then when we talk about use cases, remember when we talked about running multiple OS in one machine, right? So I can run multiple OS on my Windows machine. I can run a Linux virtual machine on my Windows machine. I can run a Windows virtual machine on my Windows machine, right? So this is one of the use case of a virtual machine. Another one is software testing and development. I could decide to create a virtual machine. Remember when we're selecting location for hosting our databases the other time, I could decide to create my virtual machine in the US and then use that to test software and deploy software to the US zone, basically. So that's another use case for virtual machine. Then for cloud computing, which is the whole essence of the conversation that we're having at the moment, where we host applications remotely and then get access to those applications remotely. So at this point, let's have in mind again the concepts and definition of a virtual machine. Virtual machine is a software-based emulation of a physical computer, right? It's virtual, hence the name virtual. It's virtual, so it means it's not a physical computer, but then you can access it remotely, right? Using connections like RDP, which we'll talk about later on. It needs an hypervisor to run like VMware or Hyper-V. And then benefits include isolation, scalability, portability, and cost efficiency. So, introduction to cloud compute services. Um, when we talk about virtual machines, so we could also create our virtual machine on our personal system, but then you can also create them on the cloud, right? Using Amazon EC2, Azure virtual machines, and Google Compute, right? Cloud computing provides on-demand computing resources over the internet, right? So once it's created, you can access it over the internet. We already know our major cloud providers. AWS, one of them. Microsoft Azure is one of them. Google Cloud is one of them. And all of these three cloud providers have their own versions of virtual machines. Well, like I said, we're going to be focusing on what's it called? On Azure virtual machines, right? But just a brief overview of um, just a brief these platform providers. We're talking about AWS EC2 now. So they have scalable virtual servers in AWS where you pay using pay-as-you-go pricing. I think we have we have a table that discusses much on that, but therefore, Azure virtual machines, they integrate well with Windows-based applications and Google Compute, they have strong integration with artificial intelligence and machine learning tools. But a broader comparisons of this provider, we're looking at their features and we're comparing these three providers. So when you talk about pricing model, AWS EC2 is a pay-as-you-go model, same as Azure virtual machine is also a pay-as-you-go model. While Google Compute Engine has per second billing, right? Yeah. So when you talk about pay-as-you-go, it means you could not use the virtual machine and you wouldn't have to pay for it at that point in time. It's only when you use it, that's when you pay for it. But then for Google Compute, as far as it's running, for the number of minutes that it's running, you have to pay for it. Then best for AWS EC2 is best for scalability, which means you can increase the resources as soon as you want it on demand, right? While Azure Virtual Machines is best for Windows apps, so we're going to be creating a Windows virtual machine today. We can also create a Linux virtual machine, but we'll focus on a Windows virtual machine. Let's see if we do have time, we'll create both of them. Then Google Compute Engine is best for artificial intelligence and machine learning workloads. Now, for free tiers, AWS EC2 have 12 months free tier. Amazon Virtual Machine has credits that they give to you at the beginning that you can use for your virtual machine. And I think you also have a 12-month free tier if you check their free table. Then Google Computers credits as well, right? So these are like the comparison between the three most popular providers. Okay, so now let's jump into our hands-on activity. We're going to be launching a virtual machine in Azure VMs, and we're going to be managing a virtual machine. So let's go to Azure portal. I'm gonna zoom this in a bit. Okay, good. So we need virtual machine. Yeah, this is our virtual machine. Remember when I said they give you 200 free credits? I think we've been seeing this. So we still have our $200 free credits to use. I haven't used it. It's there. But at the end of the month, it's going to be taken away. So it's not like forever. It's lasts for a month. I can use it for a month to do whatever I want to do. But after a month, it's going to be taken away. So let's create. So learn more about Windows virtual machine, learn more about Linux virtual machine. So you can create both of them. But let's create uh, Azure virtual machine. It's coming up. So more like what we've been doing, more like what we've been doing before now, we just fill in some of these forms and yeah. So remember about resource group, we need to create one. So I'm going to call it skill first. Let me call it skill first VMs. Yep. Then virtual machine names, I'm going to call it skill first Windows machine. Yep. So Africa, yes, I'm going to leave this zone. So I'm going to leave this as is. Then I will leave zone one. I think that's fine. Security type, trusted launch, virtual machine. So there's standard, there's trusted launch. So I'm going to leave, or let me just leave it as standard because like I always try to do, I always try to look for the cheapest one. But yeah, trusted launch is required when using 1P gallery images. Or let me just go back to trusted launch and leave it like this. Okay. So now what image am I looking for? So now this is where we're selecting the image. So it could be a Linux, Ubuntu server, could be Oracle Linux and all of this, could be Windows server or data center, or Windows 10 or Windows 11. So let me pick Windows 10. I'm picking Windows 10. Um, yeah, that's fine. Run with Azure Sports discounts. We're gonna ignore that. Now, so this is the lowest, but these are the sizes. So you have 3.5 gig memory, 16 gig memory, 2 vCPUs, 4 vCPUs, and all of that stuff. So, but I'm gonna pick the lowest here, 1 gig memory, right? Then I need a username and password so that we would use this to log into uh skill for VM, log into the virtual machine. And password, okay, let me use the strong password. Let me copy it out. I'm gonna copy it out. Paste it here. Then the username is skill ports VM. All right, good. So we have that. Now allow public inbound ports. So I'm going to allow selected ports, which is our RODP from ports 3389. Say this will allow all IP address to access your virtual machine. So that means if I give you access or the URL to access the virtual machine, you'll be able to access it using port 3349. I could say none, you understand, but then this is just for testing purposes. So right now I'm going to um, allow it the way it is right now. I could say none and then specify like only just my my IP address later on, right? But I'm going to allow this. Where's RDP 3389? Good. Yeah, so good. I'm going to specify that. Now go to disk. Okay, so as OS disk, encryption as host. So I could, okay, it's not allowing me to do that. Let's see. Platform managed key. So I'm going to allow all of this. The way it is as default, I'm going to allow them be the same way, right? So this is the memory size and this is the type. So premium SSD. I could go for standard SSD or standard HDD and all of this, but I'm going to leave it as premium SSD. So if I want more disk space and I want to buy more disk space, like a storage account, I can do this here, but I'm going to leave the way it is. Then go to networking, where I'll specify what I need for accessing the VM. So this is the port of the virtual machine. So I need a public IP. Yes, I'm going to leave it as is. Then network security group basic, allow RDP, yeah. So now delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted. So I'm going to select this. Okay. What else? Load balancing, I'll select none at the moment. Okay, so I think we're done with networking. Now let's go to management. Enable basic plan, Microsoft Defender for cloud, okay. Enable the basic plan. Identity, I'll just leave all of this as is. Okay, automatic operating system updates. I'll leave this to automatically update the operating system from time to time. Now we'll go to monitoring. We can enable alert rules for different rule. So I can configure my alerts, but I'm going to remove that. Okay, I'm going to remove that. Boost diagnostics. Let me just disable this. Enable OS guess. I'm going to just remove everything about monitoring from this VM. Now, advanced. So do you want to install any extensions? No VM applications? None at the moment. User data. I'm just going to leave everything as is. Go to tags. We don't need any tags. Now review plus create. We can review everything that we filled. So it's warning us that you have set the RDP. Let's allow it to come up with everything. Still loading. It's loaded. This is warning us that we've set the RDP to be open to the internet, which is a risky move because just about anybody who have access to the username and password can have access to the virtual machine. And if we have sensitive information in the virtual machine, then um, we have to stop access to the internet to just about anybody. So we have to restrict the access that everybody have. So could probably allow just a single IP address to be able to access the virtual machine, probably your personal IP address or the IP address of a colleague at work, right? So that's some networking security stuff that you might need to do when setting up a virtual machine. So at this point, I'm going to create this. Let's create our virtual machine. And once it's created, we can RDP into the virtual machine. RDP is a protocol that you can use to remotely access the virtual machine. It's called remote desktop protocol. So I'm going to zoom out for a bit now. And let's see what we have here. Submitting deployment. So let's go to that page. Let's allow it. So I think it's Okay, deployment in progress. Okay, nice, yeah. So it's created. Um, let's deploy now. I'm going to pause the video for a second. Yay, so our deployment is complete. So we're going to the resource now. More like the dashboard that we've always been going into all this while. Skill for virtual machine, Windows machine, virtual machine agent status is not ready to troubleshoot the issue. So we have an issue here, but let's see. So this is inbound rule into the virtual machine. So any source, any destination would TCP into our virtual machine at port 3389 rather, right? So this is what we have here. Let's see some other things. The size and the scale, we can have all of these settings in here. Now let's try to connect into our virtual machine. Right, so we can download the RDP file. So it's downloaded. Once we click on it, it's supposed to open an RDP connection. So I'm going to bring that into the screen now. So it says the publisher of this remote can't be identified. Do you want to connect anyway? I'm going to connect. Then it's asking now for the password. So this is the IP address. The IP address. So this is the password. Let me just get the password out. Okay, I'm gonna copy the password. Let's say yeah. Press OK. So now it's connecting to the virtual machine and connecting to the virtual machine now. He asked for security again, and we're able to I was able to click yes. I have some security questions. So it's loading on the other screen actually. Uh, I need to stop sharing and share again. Share the screen. Yeah, so you see this scale for the VM is loading. This is the machine that we've just created on Azure, and it's acting like a new computer on my personal computer, and it's loading and it's coming up. So we're just going to wait for a bit for it to completely load up. And then we'll also try to create, a Linux one, a Linux machine as well. Let's see if we can do that. But let's wait for this to be completely loaded up. Since it's the first time that it's coming up, it's going to be provisioning a lot of resources and all of that stuff until it comes up. But you know what? I think what I'll do is I'll make it your assignment to create a Linux virtual machine on Azure, right? So could be an Ubuntu, Red Hat, or Oracle Linux virtual machine, any one of the Linux um, flavors, right? Create one, provision it, remote access into it, and then do like a screenshot, then submit that both the dashboard on Azure as well as you remote accessing into it, submit all of the screenshots onto Google Classroom. When you do all of that, then that's your assignment for this week. So I'm going to be putting the assignments up on Google Classroom at the end of this recording. So it's still provisioning, still coming up. So I'm just going to pause again for a bit to see what's going to happen and how long it's going to take. All right, so it's asking for all of these settings. So I'm going to click accept. Hold on. Okay, so just loading up the operating system at the moment. I'm trying to set it up. It's so it's gonna take a bit. Okay, I think we're done actually. Yeah, so our virtual machine is up. As you can see, it's more like a new computer, and I can, click on the Windows button. Plus, it's still loading up, still lagging a bit, but I could click on the Windows button. Wow, recycle bin and all of that stuff. So it's just going to take a bit of time. So in the meantime, so as not to delay us, I'm going to stop sharing at this point and just go back to the other screen where we're going to be um, deleting the resource that we just created. That'll be after after I've logged out of this, right? So now, I think I even need to show us something. Give me a second. Let's see. All right. Let me show us something. Come back to the screen. Yeah, screen one. So I was able to minimize the virtual machine. As you can see, looks like a computer in a computer, right? So let's see, just go to the base here, right? So the Windows button doesn't seem to be still loading, right? It's coming up now. Doesn't seem to want to work properly, still loading, right? So this is the Windows 10 virtual machine, scale for Windows machine, the IP address and all of that stuff, ports that were connected in, remote desktop connection, right? And then this is my PC, right, as you can see, right? So this is how a virtual machine works. So to just leave without even shutting down, I could just close this connection and the virtual machine will be running. And once I give you the RDP file to connect into it, wherever I stopped working is where you stop working. So that's one of the pros that we discussed in week 2, where we say once your system goes off, doesn't mean that the virtual machine will go off. But then if it's a Docker engine that you're running, once your system goes off, the virtual machine goes off, right? So that's like pros in action, right? So I'm going to now close this to leave the remote session. Then also go back to the other screen where we would be deleting the virtual machine that we provisioned. So now I'll go home. You'll see all the resources that were provisioned. There's the virtual machine and there's the resource groups. So I would first of all try to attempt to delete the virtual machine. Let's see, delete, apply first deletes, it deletes the OS disk, network interfaces, public IP address, all of this stuff. I'm going to delete all of them. So it's deleting the virtual machine now. Then I'll go back home. Let's wait for it to be deleted. Um, so while we're even waiting for that, I could also delete the resource group as well. So delete the resource group. Enter resource group name to confirm deletion. This is the resource group name. So successfully deleted the machine. Now I'm deleting the resource group. So it's going to delete all of this stuff under it. Um, So that's all for our virtual machine class. Just a little recap. We talked about what virtual machines are. We also talked about different compute services from different cloud providers, Amazon EC2, AWS, Azure Virtual Machines, and then Google Compute Engine, that's Google CE, right? Then we also had like a demo session where we launched and managed a virtual machine in the cloud, right? Using Azure Virtual Machines. So like I mentioned, the assignments would be to launch and manage a Azure Linux machine on the cloud as well, right? So once you get to do that, make a screenshot and then upload that to Google Classroom. That's your submission for the class, right? So yeah, that's welcome. Thank you for listening. If you do have any questions, please drop your questions in the group. I'm also still waiting for a time for a one-on-one session to just catch us up with what we've been learning. Let's see how it's going and all of that stuff, right? So thank you again. Bye for now.